Just another brother with another humble question. Just another brother with another humble question.
Welcome to A Brother with Questions. I am your host, B. Period. I appreciate y'all for joining me. Please, before we get dive into this video, let me ask you to like and subscribe to the channel. Just hit the little like button down there for me, and then go and comment. Tell me what you think about the video. What you think about what I said. What you think about what they said in the video that we're reacting to today. And let's go. Let's keep moving, man. So we got here. There's been a lot of controversy about Lift Every Voice and Sing. And so we're going to watch what Stephen A. had to say. And in this particular video, we're going to listen to the Black conservative perspective and sort of react to both of them. That's what I'm going to do today, is react to both of them. So let's take a look what Stephen had to say at the beginning of this video.
Antennas up and get agitated and all of this other stuff because we're hearing something that we're not accustomed to hearing and we didn't want to hear. Why do that? Why, Megyn Kelly? Why? You are not black. You haven't been profiled like black people have. You haven't been demeaned and denigrated to the degree that black people have been. You haven't been enslaved like black people were. You haven't had your rights denied to you as black people have. Historically, you know this. So why not just sit up there and say, hey, I understand where they're coming from.
So there's Stephen's perspective. So you can see Stephen is responding to Megyn Kelly. There's been a lot of conservatives that have been responding to the Lift Every Voice and Sing that they did right at the beginning of the Super Bowl. I believe they did Lift Every Voice and Sing, and then right after that, they did the national anthem. This is something new. I don't know if you guys aren't really paying attention to the way the NFL conducts business now. But for the last couple of years, right before they go into the national anthem, they do the Lift Every Voice and Sing. As usually, I think started happening around 2020 or maybe 2021. It was right after, George Floyd, after that happened. All of these black things started happening that people started adding. And so I'm gonna give you my thoughts on the Lift Every Voice and Sing in a moment, but that's what Stephen A. is responding to, is the criticism that people had. I even saw a video where they were talking about how people weren't even standing when the young lady sung Lift Every Voice and Sing at the Super Bowl and so forth. So that's what he's talking about, just in case you missed it.
Why not? We talk about all of us coming together. You know why we can't come together? Because the first order of business in order to come together is for somebody to know that you understand where they're coming from.
All right, guys. So in a continuation of the left's outrage towards conservatives calling out the PSYOP that is the Black National Anthem, we have to talk about Stephen A. Smith, who is going to address some of the conservatives that have issues with the attempt to replace the regular national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner, the real national anthem, with the fake national anthem, the so-called Black national anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing, because that's exactly what it is. Okay, this is a part of the Marxist left's attempt to try to replace and to rewrite American history. Okay.
So again, that's in the bottom right hand corner right there. That's the Black conservative perspective. That's the name of the channel. So he is obviously he's reacting to Stephen A. Smith, and so I'm really kind of reacting to both of them in this video. But so he sees it as a psyop, right? So he sees it as black people trying to subvert singing the national anthem and inserting Lift Every Voice and Sing. And so I'm not the conspiracy guy that he apparently is. So I don't really believe that in the minds of black people that they're trying to get rid of the national anthem and get it replaced with Lift Every Voice and Sing. I don't think that's black people's goal. So we disagree there, but that is obviously his opinion. Let's keep going.
They are removing statues of our founders. Okay, they have another Independence Day, Juneteenth, Apparently, for black folks, now they have another national anthem. This is clearly and obviously an attempt to try to destroy the fabric of this country. All of the traditions of this country that bring us together as Americans, they are trying to destroy it. Okay, this is what's happening. Everybody can see it. And these people want to boohoo, whine, and scream racism. They want to be upset because conservatives are refusing to accept what clearly and obviously is an attempt to replace the traditions that we all know and love in this country that do unite us together regardless of our race, right?
Okay. So this is where this is one of the reasons why I wanted to respond to this video. So Stephen A is obviously got one perspective, right? So he's on this perspective that they lift every voice and sing. As a conservative or any other body, you shouldn't be offended by this song because this song is meant to uplift black people, right? Then you have my guy, Black Conservative Perspective here. He's on the other end and he's saying this song is, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I would assume he would say this is ridiculous and that this is simply an attempt to replace the traditions that we know and love in this country, right? So he even brought in the Juneteenth and how they're using that as the new Black Independence Day, the new Black Independence Day, and how we're getting rid of some of the statues of the founding fathers, right? Because we've been, going back and now we're reflecting on the idea that these people at one point in time owned slaves, and for all intents and purposes, they didn't find any fault in it, we'll say. And so as a result, as such, now we should not be looking up to these people for creating our country anymore because they obviously were, terrible people, as some might describe them, because they owned slaves at some point. And so we got those two perspectives. So I'm somewhere in the middle on this. And that's why I wanted to respond to this video, because I feel like there's probably more people that are like me than are either on either end of the spectrum of Stephen A or the Black Conservative Perspective. And so my take on this is, number one, I agree that I don't see the point of singing "Lift Every Voice and Sing" at the point right before the national anthem, the Super Bowl. I don't think it adds anything one way or another to love and pride of this country. Okay. Now I do understand why there are Black people who appreciate hearing it, because Black people, there are a lot of Black people in this country have felt like this country has not treated them fairly. And they not only include what happened during slavery, they're talking about what happened during the civil rights era. They're talking about what happened during, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. And then a lot of them would include, today when you look at the George Floyds and the Michael Browns and the Trayvon Martins, right? So they're looking at all of this, and they're looking at it as par for the course of America trying to tell us that they don't like Black people, right? So when they hear, or when you quote unquote allow someone to sing, lift every voice and sing, that's, for a lot of Black people, that's them holding on to something to say, you see us, right? We matter, right? Whatever you want to call it. That's the way a lot of them view it. Okay. For me, I don't see how "Lift Every Voice and Sing" changes anything. And so hearing it at the beginning of a football game doesn't change my perspective one way or another on what I think this country is or isn't doing as it relates to Black people. And in the big scope of things, this is at a football game, so it really doesn't matter, because the people at the football game, they're just there to enjoy a game. They're not there to impact change in the country, especially the change that most Black people are looking for, which starts from a systemic level, they would argue, in the government. So playing or singing that at an NFL game doesn't change what's happening within government. So for that reason, I reiterate, I think it's ridiculous. That being said, there are some that hold on to that and appreciate that and say, because the NFL is 70-something% Black players, that they should be, at least if no one else is doing anything, they should be doing something. But again, It doesn't move the needle one way or another on any of the issues that Stephen A brought up or anybody else is arguing for. And so for that reason, I do think it's ridiculous. But I also have to disagree with the Black conservative perspective in this idea that Black people are out to change fundamentally the way this country runs, because most Black people are not looking to change anything. Well, let me rephrase that. The only thing they're looking to change is to live in a country where they, quote unquote, feel like they are loved and appreciated within the country. Now, I would argue that why they would feel they aren't loved and appreciated, I don't know, in the sense that we've reached what I think is not Martin Luther King's goal and dream, but I think we've gotten as close to it as we've ever been. And so what is that? That's the idea that we are all equal, right? There's nothing that anyone, no matter what color or whatever you are, that you can't do in this country if you put your mind to it. If if there's schooling involved, right, you can use your schooling and get to where you want to be, right? If you're trying to get in government, right, there's people in place that can help you do that and fund you to get to where you want to be. So there's not can't think of anything that you can't do if you really put your mind to it and you want to do it, regardless of who you are, regardless of what your background is. Sure. Is it harder for some? Sure. But can it be done? Yes. And that's the point. The point is it can be done. And so I don't think it's a conspiracy to replace everything. I think it's a desire to feel wanted. But I think it's a misplaced desire, because it's not up to the country to prove they want you. It's up to you to prove your value. And once you prove your value, I don't think color plays a part in that. And I just look at the scores of people who have proven their value and have obtained a certain level of success, right? And that goes from the gamut of going to school and becoming a doctor or a lawyer or a pharmacist or a policeman, right? All the way up the gamut to becoming a multimillionaire, billionaire. So all the levels have been achieved at this point. It's a matter of, have you proven that you are willing to do what it is needs to be done to get there? And that's where we are. And I don't think that Lift Every Voice and Sing is going to do that. I don't think that overall Black people are trying to subvert all of the traditions of America. More than anything, they're trying to find a way to feel wanted in this country. But while I disagree that they shouldn't feel wanted, I understand that that's the way they feel, and these are the things that they are doing in order to validate that they are wanted. And so we can argue whether or not those things mean anything. Again, I'm on the side that they don't. I'm very honest and upfront. I don't think they mean anything. The Lift Every Voice and Sing at the beginning of a game changes nothing. Okay, even if it does make you feel momentarily happy, you still wake up the next morning thinking, for those that it means something to, they still wake up the next morning thinking that, they're out to get me. So it really doesn't change anything, right? Taking down the statue of a Thomas Jefferson doesn't change anything, right? At the end of the day, yeah, you thought he owned slaves and hated us and whatever, but once you take your statue down, you still think in 2024 they still do the same thing. So it doesn't change anything. So for me, these little symbolisms of making people feel emotionally good for a moment, they're not changing anything related to how they feel about this country. So why do them? That's my point. Why do them? Focus on where the change comes from. The change comes from the individual focusing on a plan, accomplishing that plan, and executing it to the full extent at whatever level you want to be on. There's great teachers, there's great policemen, there's great firemen, there's great doctors, there's great lawyers, there's great pharmacists, there's great commissioners, city commissioners, there's great mayors, right? There's so many more levels before we get to I want to be a multimillionaire of success. That if we can get to those places, then we're living the dream, buddy. Get to the place you want. Find you a man or a woman who you can love for the rest of your life. Build a family, and you've got the dream. We keep complicating it with all these other feelings that don't mean anything. Your life is not going to change because of Juneteenth. Your life doesn't change because of Lift Every Voice and Sing. So let's stop pretending that these things are what are determining whether or not you feel loved in your country. My last thing will be this. If you don't feel loved here, where are you going? Because most of us aren't even leaving this country. So I don't know what you're looking for to find love, but I would suggest you switch the conversation. Stop looking for someone to love you in terms of this country and start finding ways that you can love yourself and begin to do the things that you're passionate about and that you love. And it won't matter what you think the president's doing, because most of that doesn't affect you on this lower level anyway. And if you can find something you're passionate about, can focus on and love, you can create a world in which everything you can accomplish will be accomplished. And that, my friends, in my opinion, is why we're here. All that other stuff is the fluff. We're here to find our purpose. And once we find that purpose, to seek it out, accomplish it, and do it to the best of our ability. And there's a whole lot of levels of purpose, and none of it reaches the level of a multimillionaire. Because you can be a multimillionaire, not be in purpose, and still hate your life.
Yeah.